What's up, everybody? Today we're going to be making a special recipe shared with us by my niece Rozelle. We're going to be making her shrimp Alfredo noodles.
To go along with that, we'll also be making some homemade buttery garlic knots. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe, and let's get started with the video.
Okay, so for our noodles today, we're going to be using some butter. We have some Alfredo sauce. We're going to be using about 1.5 jars of that. Angel hair pasta. We have some garlic powder, parsley flakes, some Cajun seasoning, some garlic seasoning, Old Bay seasoning, and also Lawry's. And we're going to be using 12 ounces of large shrimp. Okay, we're going to go ahead and get our water salted a little bit and get that boiling while Ricky prepares our shrimp.
Okay, so like my mom mentioned, this is about 12 ounces of large cooked shrimp. They're peeled and deveined. You can leave the tail on if you'd like to, but we're just going to take ours off today. It's just a preference. And in the process of taking the tail off, I'm also going to check to make sure the entire vein is pulled out of the shrimp because you don't want to eat that. And then afterwards, I'm just going to give it a good rinse, and then they'll be ready to season.
Alright, and then after that, we're going to go ahead and get our water. We'll get some butter into our water. It's about 2 tablespoons. And it's going to get our water ready for our pasta. And we're going to be using a half to almost 3/4 of a box of pasta. We're not going to use the whole box. And that's plenty for, it makes a lot. A little bit goes a long way because this pasta is really thin and it's great. So I just like to break my pasta in half. You don't have to do that. This is something that I prefer to do. And you can also use different kinds of pasta if you like, I'm sure. Penne pasta or linguine or something like that. I've seen people use different types of pasta with this recipe.
Fettuccine is my favorite.
And this is just something that we're going to do today as we follow her recipe. And we're going to go ahead and get these cooked. They cook really fast.
They're so little. You want to make sure you don't overcook them though, because they do have to simmer just for a little bit after you put your sauce in there.
Right. So you're getting these drained. You're gonna put some cold water on them to go ahead and slow down the cooking process actually, to get them back in the skillet, because you're gonna put a little bit of butter in there, and we're gonna go ahead and get our skillet ready to get the Alfredo put in. So we're just gonna get that mixed up. And while I'm doing this, Ricky's gonna go ahead and get our shrimp seasoned.
Yeah, so I'm going to be seasoning the shrimp with the seasonings that we mentioned earlier. A lot of the seasonings I'm using contain salt, so I'm kind of light-handed with the ones that do. If I was just making these to just eat by themselves, I would definitely use less salt, but it's going to go into a big pot of noodles and sauce. So
and it'll distribute nicely.
Right. So this was seasoned just perfectly. And Rosa actually gave us a little bit of freedom with the seasonings that we're using today.
Because normally she uses seasonings that she used for her greens. But we're just going to use seasonings that we like to go with our garlic knots that we're going to be making today.
And for some reason, whenever I make shrimp, it has to have a lot of garlic in it. I don't get it. It's just shrimp. Oh, garlic.
You can't have too much garlic.
Right.
Well, then again.
It depends on what it is.
Right. Exactly. So like we were saying, this distributed really, really good. These seasons went well for just the amount of shrimp that we had to go with all the pasta that we're going to have. So
I just tossed those a little bit, and now this is me adding about 2 tablespoons of butter to a skillet over medium-high heat. I believe it was medium-high heat. I can't really remember. But don't forget that these shrimp are already fully cooked. So this is, you're basically just warming them up in this process. You don't want your shrimp to be rubbery, yes.
Yeah, they cook really fast.
Right. So
I mean, they heat up really fast. I guess I should say that.
This is me just putting them in a single layer so they can cook evenly. And I only cooked these for maybe 2-3 minutes. It was really fast. By that time, my mom had already gotten the Alfredo sauce in the noodles, which you see her doing now.
Yes. So I'm going to get these mixed in really well. This Alfredo sauce is so good, but of course you can also make your own from scratch if you like. But this recipe was fast and easy, so this is just an option for you to prepare it this way. It was so good. We actually made this more than once. We loved it so much. So yeah, I'm just gonna go ahead and get the shrimp in there, which we were supposed to drain, but it worked out.
Right.
It worked out. Actually, that was just butter, so it was fine. So they mixed up really well, and this recipe is about done. We're just gonna let it simmer just for a few more seconds, and then that is it.
Yeah, and I think we added about another half of that, the other jar. Yeah, going in there right now, and then, like you said, just let it simmer. Basically, just warm up the sauce.
Right, exactly.
Because everything's done at this point.
And you can put as much or as little of the sauce that you like. So this was just great for us. So look at that, man. That's nice and creamy.
Delicious.
Yeah, thank you, Rozelle. This recipe was so good.
It was.
Yes, yes, yes. And my husband loved it too. He was like, oh, can I have some more of that? Look at that. Creamy goodness.
Alright, so we're going to get started with the ingredients for our garlic knots. We have whole milk, marinara sauce for dipping, grapeseed oil, parsley flakes, garlic powder, flour, butter, 2 to 4 garlic cloves, active dry yeast, 1 egg, salt, and sugar. So we're going to begin blooming/proofing our yeast mixture. That's some warm water. Make sure your water is warm. I'm going to put in our packet of active dry yeast and our 1/4 teaspoon of sugar, and we're going to mix it up really well.
Well, this really reminds me of cooking in the kitchen with my mom when she was making her homemade rolls. It smells exactly the same. It smells so good.
Also smells kind of like pizza dough.
Yeah, this doesn't take long either. Once you mix it up very well, you just let it sit for about 5 minutes.
Yeah, it'll rise during these 5 minutes.
Like that. That's kind of cool.
Yeah. So we're going to get started on our dough mixture. We're going to add in, we're going to get started on the dough. We're going to add in our yeast mixture. Then we're going to add in some sugar. And then our milk. Make sure your milk is warm. It has to be warm to the touch. And I think we put it in the microwave for about 30 seconds.
Yeah, we don't want it to be hot. Just make sure it's warm.
And then that's about 6 tablespoons of butter. And then we're going to add in our egg and then our salt. So we're going to be using a hand mixer today.
And you can also use a stand mixer if you want. If you have that, that's fine too.
Yeah, we're going to use our dough hook attachments. If you have a hand mixer but you don't have the dough hook attachments, you'll have to knead your dough by hand. And once your dough gets to a point where it's like kind of pulling away from the sides of your bowl, then you're gonna turn it out and knead it for about 3 to 4 minutes on a lightly floured surface. So once I got that mixture kind of incorporated, I'm adding in my flour about a half a cup at a time. Now if you're using a stand mixer, you can pretty much skip the kneading because the dough hook that comes with the stand mixer,
it's pretty efficient.
Right, it'll knead the dough for you. But since we have a hand mixer, I'm just adding flour, scraping down the sides of the bowl, and kind of just incorporating the flour into the dough because it'll kind of seem like it doesn't want to mix in there. You just have to work it in there.
And it makes the dough really smooth. This is a great process to get that all incorporated.
Yeah. And once you know your dough is done, you'll be able to touch it, and it should be about no dough on your finger.
No dough.
Minimal transfer. So I'm just putting some flour on my counter and some on my hands and spreading the dough out just a little bit.
Yeah, you don't want it to stick to the counter when you take it out.
Yeah.
That would be a mess.
Yeah, so I'm not really kneading it all too much. I'm just kind of going to be shaping it into a ball, and working out any lumps that might still be in your dough. You want your dough to be kind of smooth and in the shape of a ball, really.
Basically. Because we have to get it in the bowl so it can rise.
Yes. So I highly suggest getting you one of these bench scraper things. The little flat thing I have over there. Amazing.
Oh yeah, I love
it's amazing. So this is some olive oil spray. I know earlier we mentioned that we're going to use grapeseed oil, but that's olive oil spray. It doesn't have any what's that stuff called that be in the cans?
Aerosol.
Yes. It doesn't have any of that, and it's propellant free, so it's just oil. It's just oil in there. So now I'm just kind of I'm tucking like the ends of my ball under itself to make it more of a ball shape, because during that time it kind of expanded a little bit. So I'm just working the dough around in the bowl to get some oil on it. I just put some more on top of it. And now I'm going to cover it with some cling wrap. Well, that's not cling wrap. I think it's called press and seal.
It's great. Whatever it's called.
Right. I like it better than cling wrap.
Me too, because it actually clings.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So we put our dough on our stove, and we're going to let it rise for about an hour. And while that's rising, we're going to get our butter mixture that we're going to brush on top of our knots together. So that's some butter. This is the biggest garlic clove I've ever seen in my entire life. I struggled with this garlic press because it's not, this clove was so big. But that's why I said maybe 2 to 4, because we actually ended up making another batch of this because we brushed it on the knots before, and then we brushed it on after they're done as well.
Right.
So that was some pressed garlic powder. Be careful with the garlic. This is all to taste as well. We didn't measure anything because it can be too garlicky, but you want to have that garlic flavor in there.
And we love garlic. So.
Right. So that was some parsley, and now I'm adding some Italian seasoning. And I'm just going to mix it up really well. Make sure you get that pressed garlic at the bottom because it'll want to clump together. You got to make sure you get it mixed up.
I'm telling y'all, if y'all make this recipe, you've got to make this butter mixture. It is absolutely delicious.
It is.
On these garlic nuts.
Okay, so our dough has risen. You can see it touching the top of our plastic. It's about an hour or so later.
And the stove was not on, by the way. It was just some residual heat that was warm under the bowl from when the oven had been on earlier. But you don't actually want to turn it on or anything like that.
Yeah.
So it's fine.
If your house is cold, it might take a while for your dough to rise. So just keep that in mind. So I just punched my dough, my favorite part.
Push the air out of it.
Yeah. So now I'm just kind of shaping it and getting it prepared to cut into our garlic knots. Now I actually ended up cutting this in half. This is the whole entire batch of dough. I ended up cutting it in half and doing 2 batches of knots.
So you can freeze one batch and then use the one batch for whatever meal you're going to make at the time.
Right. So this is that second half batch. I already did 1 batch off camera. And I'm cutting these using that bench scraper. Multi-purpose.
She loves this tool, y'all.
I'm cutting them out to about, they should be about 1/2 inch pieces. I wasn't too, precise with those cuts, obviously. But
yeah, you want to cut them as evenly as you can so your knots will be around the same size.
Right, and you'll see that in our knots while they're on our prepared baking pan. But as you can see, I'm just making a loop, pulling one end through that loop and tucking the ends. It's literally a knot.
And she's going on a little slow so you can see what she's doing.
Yeah, I'll do it again so you guys can see as well.
It's really easy. Yeah, this was some great dough. It's really easy to work with.
So much fun to work with. It's so soft.
Yep. It's kind of therapeutic to just roll it around.
Right.
Yeah.
And I know I'm kind of off, out of the frame a little bit, but you can see the main point I'm talking about.
Right.
As far as
look, technical difficulty.
Right. As far as the knot goes. Right.
But see, you can see the knot. That she's just gonna tuck it. Well, you can actually, you don't have to tuck them either if you don't want to.
Right.
But we like to tuck it in, so.
Yeah, I like the little
bowl. So, here you go, as you can see.
Yeah, so you made 2 batches of 12. And so I'm going to cover these again. I'm going to let them rise for about another hour. And now I'm brushing that butter mixture on top of our knots.
Yeah,
delicious.
Man, oh man.
Because we didn't put any type of garlic, anything inside the dough. So you want to make sure you brush that on before you bake it, so that flavor will bake into the knots as well. And we cooked them for about 9 minutes. It depends on how done you want your knots to be.
Yeah, because some people like them more brown than others. I know we like ours just slightly brown.
Yes.
And I'm telling y'all, this smells so good.
And as you can see, the knots are different sizes, but it all cooked pretty good.
So that's okay, as long as they all fit in your mouth to eat. So that's all you worry about.
Right. So this is us brushing the butter on. After they're done, they cooked. I think ours cooked for about 9 minutes. Now that I'm thinking about it again.
So good, y'all.
Sprinkling some grated Parmesan. You don't have to do this, but I would suggest.
She would highly suggest.
Right.
Yes.
And then some more parsley, as if it doesn't have enough parsley, but it's just so pretty.
Makes it so pretty.
And this is everything on the plate.
Yeah. So thank you, Rozelle, for your Alfredo recipe. It was delicious.
Yes.
And she's also shared other recipes with us that we'll be sharing with you guys in the future.
Yes. So make sure you like, share, and subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you'll know when we post our next video. Let us know down in the comments if you enjoyed the video, and we'll see you guys in the next one.
Thanks, guys.